Welcome back, trainers, and it finally happened. I received my 100,000 subscriber plaque in the mail. It is finally here. That is right. We're going to be taking a look at that complete unboxing towards the end of the video. I just wanted to show you this part here. We will be getting to that. So I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart so much for supporting me and sticking with me through this journey. We'll be getting more on that here in just a moment. As you can see, we have a shiny Grimer on the screen. Yeah, that's right, weather boosted. This is actually going to be one crazy IV. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, well, you don't know. But if you do, you have a great idea. Well, you already know exactly what this is. And that is going to be a 15 attack, 10 defense, and 15 stamina Grimer shiny at level 32 in the wild. That is just absolutely crazy. So pretty happy about this. I freaked out. I was in front of Best Buy. The people, some people were looking at me because I was kind of like, swinging my hands up. Pretty awesome. So I was also able to catch a whole lot of Krogunk and Skorupi. We'll also take a look at all of that. Fantastic. And yes, it was in cloudy weather when I was catching those. Alright, so here are all the Pokemon that I've caught in the past, I'd say 24 hours or so, minus all of the ones that I've transferred. Looking fantastic, and there's the shiny Grimer. Getting a few of those Pachirishus as well as the Bronzor. I actually go plus this. Yeah, was looking through my Pokemon and was surprised to see it. Nice little treat there. Little Bronzor. I haven't caught any, really, just two, so my candies aren't looking great. As far as transferring rare candies, nah, not currently. It may be a possibility for what I'm about to talk about. So people are asking me to cover the Boulder badge for the Silph Road tournament. So what kind of Pokemon should you be using? And I was really debating whether or not I wanted to go into this and put out information on how to do it, because I'm going to be competing. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to talk about what you're going to kind of want to go through. Obviously, I don't need to, show you the Pokemon that I'm going to be using. But with that said, yes, let's go ahead and talk about that tournament Boulder badge and a few types that you may want to stick with, and maybe some types that you want to keep away from as well. So let's go ahead and hop into that. All right, so if you're not aware about the Silph Road tournament and competition that they have, it is kind of new. They had one last month, and it was just the beta. Now they're going all out with the real thing. Now they're sticking to the Boulder theme, which is going to be rock, ground, steel, and fighting type only. So it doesn't matter if they're dual types. Say you have a ground and water type, you'll still be able to use that. Say a Swampert, for instance, right? As long as they're one of the dual types. Now, if you look at all of these types, which one are you going to categorize as the weakest link out of all of them? Take a second. What do you think? It's going to be rock, all right? Because rock is going to be weak to the ground, steel, and also fighting. What is it going to be strong against as far as going up against any of those? Nothing. It's not going to benefit you whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's not going to be very effective to fighting, steel, and ground types. So it's going to be a loss there. On the other hand, ground is going to be strong against, obviously, the rock and also the steel. Steel is not going to be doing much towards the ground and the fighting as well. Fighting type, as a matter of fact, is going to be standing out as one of the best, my personal opinion, for this whole competition, because it's going to be doing massive damage to both rock and steel type. If you go up against something that's ground, well, you can still do a good amount of damage. Unless you're going up against a Nidoking or Queen that's going to be part poison type, then you're obviously not going to be doing much damage with your fighting moves. But for the most part, they should be solid, especially if you have great dual typing for your fighting type Pokemon. Now, for the Boulder Badge tournament, you have many options to go with. Whiscash is going to obviously be one of those Pokemon that you're probably going to want to use, considering it is water and ground type, ground being eligible for the tournament and having a amazing set. I currently don't have mine set up, but we'll get there. And then you also have Gligar, even a Gliscor if you have a low enough to get into that league, with a flying charge move as well as a ground. So you'll be able to cover those fighting type Pokemon and the rock and steel type. So think about that one as well. And this is just the lower end here. We're going to go back up and talk about the stronger ones in a minute. And then you also have Hariyama, which is another good option with fighting moves, going to be strong against those rock and steel types, a fairly tanky Pokemon. So if you're dealing neutral damage, you still would be kind of okay. Going up against a Metagross, you might find a little bit of trouble if it did have psychic moves, but otherwise you should be looking okay. And this is just going to be a quick run through. I'm going to make more in depth on what you may want to use, okay? So keep that in mind. This is not a complete breakdown. I'm going to go through their moves on another video. We're just going to briefly talk about a few Pokemon here. And then you also have Infernape, which is also a great option if you want to tap into some firepower there for Flamethrower to cover some of those steel types if you go up against a Metagross. Well, if you have your shields, a couple of them, if need be, and you know you need to get rid of that Metagross, well, you'll be able to at least shield up once if they try to get off a Meteor Mash and you're on low health, and or they have Psychic ready and you know they do from a previous Pokemon that fainted, you'll be able to Flamethrower that, Steelix, and any other kind of steel type, depending on what their secondary typing is. Now, I did do a little comparison with my 100 Swampert that I have here that is magnificent, and I was looking at this like, man, it's such a shame that the CP is so low on this 100, but hey, now we have Tournament and Great League. So I did compare that one to Marshtomp, and Marshtomp was actually performing a little bit better. I could be wrong, let me know, but it appeared that it had a bit more attack, so I think I might go with that, and it was compared to another 15 that I have. You also have Omastar as well with that Water Gun and Ancient Power, another rock Pokemon there, but you better look out for those fighting types. That's why fighting is just going to be such primo when it comes to this. And then you have the Sandslash with the Steel type, and then you'd be able to get a bit of Ice there in case you go up against, I don't know, just a pure ground type, I suppose. But if you do have a situation like that, we'll be getting into some more Pokemon like in Polion very briefly. Righty, so I have Rock, Steel, Ground, and Fighting type pulled up here. Now we're looking at my top CP Pokemon. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get a Groudon into the Great League, which that's what this tournament is going to be under the Great League. I did not mention that in the past there, so keep that in mind. 1500 CP and under. So why are we looking at my top CP Rock and Steel type Pokemon and Ground? Because you can still get these into the Great League other than the Groudon there. So Metagross, is that going to be something beneficial to use in this tournament? Yes, as a matter of fact, it will be with Zen Headbutt, because obviously fighting types are going to be able to enter into this. So having a psychic move like that should benefit you to some degree. If you go up against a Hitmonlee, Primate, Machamp, anything else that is a pure fighting type, you're going to be dealing super effective damage. All right, so that's something to consider. Metagross is going to be good. And of course, if you have Meteor Mash, that is a must, period. As far as a secondary move, what do you want? Do you want Psychic or do you want Earthquake? I would probably recommend Earthquake, guys, because, well, you're going to be going up against Rock and Steel type Pokemon, and also ground types that could be mixed with Rock, so weak to ground as well. And that's going to be super effective. What is Psychic going to do for you? He will go up against those fighting type Pokemon, but you might as well just do an Earthquake, all right? It's going to be dealing neutral damage and super effective. And in PvP, having that like extra super effective damage is great, but when you're going to hit your opponent with a charge move that's fairly strong and neutral damage, you're good anyways. You don't have to worry about super effective plus, you know, stab and all that stuff. As long as it's dealing neutral damage, you're all right. My point here being is just go with Earthquake. It's going to be stronger anyways. Now, if you're high roller and you have the candies and or Melmetal candies, or should I say Meltan candies ready to go, and you're willing to put one of these things into the Great League, this is not a horrible option, all right, with Earthquake and Rock Slide. Thundershock, obviously, as the quick move, and you're going to be looking pretty good. You're going to be weak to ground and fighting and fire. Another great option is going to be Donphin right here with Counter, Play Rough, and Earthquake. So Earthquake is going to be super effective to everything on the field except for other ground types there. Play Rough is going to be strong against those fighting types that are also permitted into the tournament. And then you have Counter strong against those Rock Steel types, like possibly a Steelix entering the battle. You're going to be covered here with this Donphin. So that is another great option to go in with. Now, if you can get yourself a low enough Machop or Machoke and then evolve it into Machamp, well, and get it into the Great League, this is obviously going to be one of the best fighting type options to go with. Counter Dynamic Punch as far as the secondary move. Heavy Slam is not a horrible option considering there's going to be rock types, but I mean, Rock and Steel, technically you don't really need that. If you have Dynamic Punch, you might as well just use that to go up against the Steel or Rock type. Steel is not going to be super effective against other Steel types, so I don't know. It's up to you. Maybe you want to put a close combat. All right, so moving down the line here, we do have Heracross, which can be a good option depending on your opponent's, move sets and all that stuff, and the counter Pokemon that you have to protect it possibly, but it will be getting reduced damage from fighting and ground type, so that could work in your favor. Depends on the moveset you have as well. If you have one that's low enough. Personally, mine, nope. Got a maxed out one just about, and one that's around 1600, so rest in peace. Yeah, they're not too easy to come around over here in Alaska. Then you have Scizor, of course. Definitely don't want to go with this set. I would think maybe Bullet Punch, because it's going to be super effective to at least that rock type. Although, in a lot of cases, you might as well just go with Fury Cutter, because it's going to be charging up your moves a lot quicker, inevitably burning out their shields and or taking off a bigger chunk of their health at the end of the day. So you want to probably go with Iron Head, right, on a Scizor. If you decide to go with that, it's going to only be weak to fire types, so not a bad option. Everything that's going to enter in the tournament, their stab moves at least are not going to be super effective there. You can have tricky Pokemon like Hitmonchan that will bust out a fire move, so you do have to look out for that, and that is another option we're going to be going over here in just a moment. Then you have Empoleon, of course, another great water and steel type option. You don't want this moveset, and if you haven't bought a secondary move, don't do it. Let me recommend this to you. Go with Waterfall and Hydro Pump, okay? You're going to be super effective to rock and ground types. If you go up against a fighting type, it's just going to be neutral damage, but there's no other move that it has that is going to be super effective to fighting types, so purchasing a secondary move is not within your best interest. If you're going up against a rock type, for instance, Flash Cannon will be super effective, but you do have Hydro Pump, so there's no point, right? It's not too expensive for the starters, so the choice is yours if you want a bit of coverage, all right? So there is Empoleon, very nice. Like, I'm not going to break down the specs and all that. Just going to make somewhat good recommendations and look at highlighted Pokemon here. This one, can learn fire, so there is another fire outlet right there for you. If you go up against an Empoleon, do fire move to it, it's not going to be super effective. But if you go up against a Steelix or something like that, at least you'll have that. But when it comes down to it, just punch it, right? Fighting moves all the way. So there is that option. I mean, it's okay. It's charge moves. Now, here we go. You also have Torterra, right? That's going to be an option and an outlet for grass type moves, as well as having that massive solar beam damage, as well as Earthquake. Razor Leaf is a strong grass move, so if you're going up against, I don't know, a rock and ground, you're going to be doing a lot of damage right there. And if you get stuck up against a steel type, you're like, great, not doing much damage here. Well, if you're lucky enough to finally get off that Earthquake before you faint, which you should be able to because Torterra is a fairly tanky Pokemon, and say it's a Metagross, well, the steel type isn't going to be doing super effective to you. You'll eventually get off that Earthquake unless they destroy you with their Meteor Mash. Earthquake is going to be super effective, and hopefully they do not shield. And as I can see right now, it looks like we have clear weather, and I'm going to cross my fingers that it stays like that so I can go out and do those tier 4 solos tomorrow. Come on, please stay like that weather. And then you have Breloom. If you use it in the right situation. Now, I haven't purchased any moves. It can learn Bullet Seed for its quick move and or counter. Dynamic Punch for its charge move, and then Seed Bomb for its secondary charge move, which I would highly recommend. As far as the poison move, don't ever go with that. That's not what you want currently. Maybe in another PvP situation, but for these typings, no go. So you're going to want Dynamic Punch and then Seed Bomb. Holy cow, and there is your grass outlet right there to cover for those rock and ground types. You're going to have some grass coverage there. Dynamic Punch and counter on a Breloom is absolutely killer. So this is something you should keep your eyes out. But on the negative side, it can't take that many hits, so you need to look out for that. So if you're thinking, well, what about fighting? What about fighting? Yeah, you're looking at it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, here is how you deal with them in the Great League for the Boulder Badge. Gliscor is MVP in my book. Now you're going to have Fury Cutter, Night Slash, and Aerial Ace. You're going to want to take that Night Slash right off. Yeah, and replace it with Earthquake. And then you're going to have yourself one nasty beast right here. Only if you can get one into the Great League. Shouldn't be too difficult. If anything, you could use Gligar itself, which is not a horrible option. So there you go. Another MVP for the Boulder Badge. Now, Poliwrath is going to be good. Yeah, I don't know why I had the little tone. It's going to be fantastic. It's also going to have bubble, which I would also recommend. You're going to have that rock smash that will be super effective to those rock and steel types. But if you have bubble, that's going to gain you a lot more energy. Plus, you're also going to be super effective to those ground and rock types anyway. So, yeah, you might as well go with bubble. So, there you have Poliwrath. And we will be breaking down these Pokemon a lot more in the future for sure. Now, Nidoking can put you in a good situation if you're going up against, say, somebody who used all fighting types, right? They were trying to be clever and they had like a Breloom and whatever other typing, just so they had all the elemental types covered. Well, if you go up against one of these bad boys here, you're going to be able to take reduced damage, at least from their fighting moves, right? Now, Sludge Wave, no. Earthquake, pretty much, right? Because this Sludge Wave isn't going to be doing very much damage, only against those fighting type Pokemon, and it's not even super effective. It's going to do neutral, but it's also going to take a minute to finally charge it up. Now, if you do have a Legacy Fury Cutter, now you're looking great, right? Because that's going to be high energy gain. You'll be able to get that Earthquake off very fast. So Nidoking, not a bad option to repel those fighting types possibly. All right, now we have Hitmonchan. We're over here on the Go Hub. I will be going into more depth, like I said earlier, about these Pokemon. I just wanted to talk about it really quick to show you here. So Hitmonchan, I'm not going to go through all of what it's weak and everything. We're just going to take a look at its moves because that is what we need to focus on right now. Legacy Rock Smash for a quick move, okay. And then we have Brick Break for Legacy Charge move. If you have Brick Break, stick with it. Stick with it for sure, because otherwise you're going to have close combat, a one big charge move. It's going to take a minute to get up. You don't want your Hitmonchan to be too vulnerable without getting up any charge moves. Now, for coverage, you have Ice Punch and Thunder Punch and then Fire. Now, this is a Pokemon I used in the last tournament, and it absolutely destroyed. It was great. So this is the other thing about having a channel. People can see everything I'm using. Simply pick Pokemon to counter it. So, there you go. I didn't want to expose this thing, but, well, here we are. All right, so what else do you want on this? Definitely if you have a Legacy Brick Break. If you don't have that, then what? Well, Fire Punch, #1 for this league. Yes, if you go up against rock or ground, it's not going to be doing that much damage. But think about the steel type, and you're going to have amazing fire coverage there, right? Because I already know people are going to be using those steel. You also have the Swampert to look out for, right? So there is that situation, but then you have other Pokemon that could possibly come in and help you out because you have Breloom as well that has that grass element. So what do you want? Maybe you can go with close combat. Fire Punch has been established for the quick moves. Go with counter. Go with counter right now. Okay, so the energy gain for that is going to be 8.9. Then you have Bullet Punch at 11.1. It's a lot better for the Bullet Punch as far as the energy is concerned. But I would go with counter because of the Pokemon that are going to be entering into this league. So this will be the last Pokemon we're going to talk about. Then we're going to go ahead and open up that plaque and see what we have going on here. So for Hitmonchan, yeah, you might want to put that on your radar and start looking out for that. Anyways, there you go. Now, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at this plaque and see what we have going on.
My mama calls, see you on TV. Sunset shit changed. Ever since we was on, I dreamed it all. Ever since I was young, they said I won't be nothing. Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forget how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hate and say we changing, look, we made it. Yeah, we made it. No one never friendly. I'm jumping out of bed. And I know it's something bad, but I knew I had to have it. For the money, you must have it. I mean, you sound like I had it. So why they tell me bad? They didn't know me last year. Everyone wanna act like they important, but all that mean nothing when I saw my door. Everyone counting on me, drop the ball. Everything costs on the gun, make the bottle. How could I make sense when I got millions on my mind? Coming with it, put it to the side. Bought a sense of baby, they could see it in my eyes. My mama called, see you on TV. Sunset shit done changed. Ever since we was on, I dreamed it all. Ever since I was young, they said I won't be nothing. Now they always say congratulations. Worked so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hating, say we're changing, look, we made it. Yeah, we made it. I was patient, yeah. Oh, I was patient. Now I can scream that we made it.
So there we are, trainers. We finally received the 100,000 plaque. So this is an absolute mind blow. If you've been here since I've been making Digimon Unlimited, please let me know in the comments below. Yeah, that has been a long time, and I would never have thought that I would have made it this far. I mean, I had a vision and I went for it, but to think that I just started off as like a fun thing to do on the side to entertain people and educate them on what I was doing in the past, and it's turned out to be my job, and receiving this plaque is just an absolute blessing, and I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. You are all amazing, because I mean, I just have been grinding over here on my phone. There has been so much that you have not seen behind the scenes, so much heartache and so much just grinding and just repetition and trying to come up with new ideas every day. And I know I'm not the most creative person in the world or on YouTube, but I still bring you guys videos every day, and I try to give you information that you want to know. And I'm just completely blessed to have you all and to be where I'm at right now. If you think things are not very possible, or you can't do it, or you don't have what it takes or the equipment, guys, one Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge is what got me here, and a data plan, all right, and a Pokemon Go account, right, and persistence and repetition and never stopping. I mean, there were some dark times, guys, back when the gyms were taken over by bots and things like that. It wasn't so much that there were the bots and everything, it was just people weren't really looking for Pokemon Go content, and I risked it all back then, and it was keep on going, or you better go back to some sort of job that you had, otherwise things are not going to be looking great. So I want to say thank you one more time from the bottom of my heart, and I know I don't ask for these much, but if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, guys. We made it. We have been at 100,000 subscribers for some time. We're at 117 currently as I'm recording this, but we finally received the official plaque. So awesome, guys. Thank you for watching, trainers. And with that said, I will be catching you all next time.